Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So what I'm going to do today, I will talk about provider search, and before that, I need to talk about the health cloud for MedTech companies, right? So far we have looked at um, the health cloud for payers and providers, right? Now, I just wanted to briefly touch upon the medtech. It will take maybe perhaps 5 minutes, right? So, medtech companies are the one who provide medical equipment to the factory, sorry, to the hospitals, excuse me, to the doctors or or to health providers, right? Let me give an example, right, about a very simple use case. Uh, let's say a company makes the pacemakers for the heart, right? And so the medical company, the medtech firms, they manufacture um, the pacemaker and they ship it to hospitals, right, based on the demand. Now, it's very important that they maintain the right inventory stock, right? Because obviously, uh, it's a responsibility of the hospitals to make sure that they have a right inventory in place, so that they can order pacemakers if they're running out of one, because it's a life-threatening scenario if a patient needs it and the hospital don't have it, right? So that's partially the responsibility of the hospital, and that's why it's good to have health cloud in place so that they can, if they're using Salesforce, right? If they're using something else, that's a different story. But from a Salesforce perspective, since we are talking about Salesforce, let's assume that hospital uses Salesforce Health Cloud. So inventory management, it kind of helps when it comes to maintaining the stuff, the count of the pacemakers. The same goes with the medtech companies, right? The sales rep who actually sells um, this pacemaker to hospitals, he has to make sure that he has the right inventory. If hospital requests him to provide um, more pacemakers for the patients, right? And also the medical rep or the sales rep, right? Whichever way you put it. They're responsible for training hospitals or doctors about the latest technology, right? Like pacemaker is pretty simple, right? It has every pacemaker has a unique ID and all of this stuff, right? So that kind of information, sales rep can provide, and also the functioning aspect of it. The same goes for other technological device, the med tech companies produce, right? Or techno or medtech, in the sense the word medtech I'm using, the company responsible for producing medical technologies, right? So that's on that context I'm using. They might come up with new technology, right? Let's say something to do with the brain or something to do with other stuff, right? So usually the rep has to go to the healthcare providers and to help them understand the importance of it, and not necessarily that every healthcare provider will be convinced to use it. I mean, pacemaker is an exception, but in general, say medical tech companies have some kind of product, they wanted to sell it, but the hospital maybe said, we don't need it, or doctors will say, nah, we don't need it. So if they say they need it, so if they're using Salesforce, right, MedTech, they can convert that leads into opportunities, or right. Um, so so yeah, that's one aspect from the MedTech, and then also, if you have a bad, if you have a, say, not the bad, how would I say, if you have a discrepancy between your actual stock and the stock you haven't, that's been mentioned uh, on screen, right? Then you can fix it using Health Cloud. Health Cloud is very flexible, right? And also, from a hospital perspective, right? They can also use intelligent automation to, you know, to check whether about their stock, and getting a discount and all kind of stuff you can do, right? So I'm not really gonna talk about more, but I just wanted to mention, right. This is important to know, right. MedTech companies can use Health Cloud for their operation purpose. So the reason why I'm telling you this, right, if you're a consultant, right, if you go to say a medical facility, right, you can convince even the MedTech guys or the hospital guys to use Health Cloud, right? Because it's applicable to both, right? Care providers or the companies who manufacture medical technology or products related to medical tech. Okay, now today what I'm going to look at I'm going to look at the provider search, right? This is one of the functionality I wanted to demonstrate, right? Now, what is provider search and why do we need it, right? So let's take an example of a child screen, right? We've been looking at child screen a patient for a long time, right? It's a long time in the sense, for the past 2 weeks, right? This is our favorite guy who's been helping us understand Health Cloud, right? So shout out to him, even though it's a fictitious name, right? Okay, so child screen, you know, had a kidney issue. Everything went fine. Everything, you know, looks okay. Now he's been taken care of by different people. So now after a year, Charles Green had a problem with his knee injury. A problem with his knee, right? He's struggling to walk. He cannot walk, say more than say 10 minutes, and he's kind of experienced a lot of pain in the knee, right? Pain on his knee. So he decided to visit his general practitioner. So his general practitioner said, "Okay, let me give you some medication, right? Try with collagen and all kind of stuff, right? Try with vitamin D, and I'll give and some other medication, right? And ask him to visit, come back perhaps um, mm, maybe after 4 months or 6 months to see, right? And let's say Charles visits his GP again after 6 months to say, hey, I don't see any improvement. So his GP needs to recommend him to an orthopedic doctor, right? Orthopedic surgeon to see if something seriously wrong with his knee, right? So he said, okay, you need to contact an orthopedic surgeon, right? Now, Charles Green has an insurance. Okay, so he contacted his payee, um, let's say Charles X Bloomfield or whatever insurance agency, right? Just some insurance agency. So he contacted them and said, "Hey, I want you to help me find an orthopedic surgeon for me, right?" So he picked up uh, so he called, say, his payer. Uh, Insurance company and a support staff answered his call and they say, hey, like I said, I need you to help me find an orthopedic surgeon, right? And the person who answered the call said, all right, okay, we can sort that out for you. So that person used provider search to find a doctor for a child's grade. So that's where the provider search comes in the picture, right? Now we understand the context, right? Why provider search? So obviously the pay, the insurance company, right? Um, Obviously use uh, the health cloud. So Charles' record is maintained in the health cloud, and using a provider search, the support agent will be able to assist Charles Green to not only find for the Charles Green based on the time and the location, but also book an appointment for him. Okay, so now before you use the provider search, you need to do a couple of things, right? The first thing first, you need to turn on the provider search functionality. So you go to setup here, right, and provider search. Okay, so you go most likely if you're using. So I'm using trial org. That's one of the reasons why things are enabled for me by default. But if you have installed this using a managed package, the most likely things wouldn't be the same. Okay, but you know I just wanted to show you how you can activate it. So under setup, right? Type the provider, right, and you can see provider search, and it says provider search settings, and you just need to activate it. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now you must be wondering what the heck is the syncing data, right? So what happens, right? We have a process in place that runs once in a day, which translate your data from your provider provider, you translate your provider data into a care provider searchable field. Okay, so uh, so there's something called care provider searchable field, right? So that's exactly what happens. But you can manually sync it, right, anytime you want. But behind the scene, it just happens once. But if you want to do it more than, you just have to manually do that. And there is something called, uh, and another thing you need to do, right? Um, you need to activate. So if you, so this is this is good. Now you need to do something under permission set, right? So you go to permission set for the user. Let's say I go to my permission set, right? I go to my name. So I go to my, hmm, it's taking some sweet time. It's pretty interesting though, right? I mean, you can drag and drop the provider search to a record page. I mean, wherever you want. That's one option you have. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have one permission set. So I'll show you which one. So if I say go here, edit, and if I data pipeline base user, right? This is important. You need to have this, right? So make sure you have this permission set. And also under setup, you need to have the data pipeline uh, enabled. Okay. So, all right. So that's done. Now you just go to provider search. Okay. Provider search. And, usually it's done by, insurance agent, in our scenario, right? The person will be saying, okay, let me look for, a provider, sorry, a doctor for you. Let's say Amy Helpman, right? Now, um, so, okay, they found this, right? And they say, all right, this is the address. So, you give the address to Charles Green, hey, you can visit, right? So, and you can book that as well, right? So you can call and book that the person. Now you must be wondering why I'm seeing this funny character. I mean, my apologies. I don't know if it's a Japanese or it's a Chinese because I can't read either of them. But for some reason, because it's a trial org, I looked at all my settings. It's English, but for some reason showing Japanese. So yeah, in your org it will be English, but yeah. Um, so yeah, my apologies. I have no clue what language is it. So obviously, it doesn't look Korean to me because Koreans are a bit interesting, and it doesn't look Thai to me. So could be Japanese, it could be Chinese. I know Japanese have kanji, or and I'm not good with languages, right? I can do computer languages, but human language, I'm not really very good at. So yeah, so if you can understand what languages, just to let me know, right? So okay, so you can find it, right? The name, I presume, is a name. Okay. And I don't know what this tick box is about, but um, but either way. So you can book it, right? Search within, the radius, I presume the distance, right? I guess if it's by 100 miles, might change the search or maybe not. Still the same, right? So whenever you're doing this search, right, it's not searching from a provider structure. It's actually searching from the care provider search field I spoke about. So let me look at. So if I say care provider searchable field, right? So if I look at view all, so here you go, Amy Helpernist, all right. So that's the so provider search will look into this object to give you the detail, right? But if you wanted to bring the data here, you need to use that sync I spoke about earlier. So yeah, that's pretty much I wanted to cover in this episode, right? I appreciate the fact, right? It might get boring at times, But from a health cloud perspective, right? This is a functionality which Salesforce has in place, and I think it's doing a pretty good job, right? Now, I, one thing I just wanted to, it's just an observation, right? Like as you know, right, I'm pretty blunt with my suggestions and observation. A few people reached out to me, right, to say, hey, I wanted to using LinkedIn, right? I wanted to do Health Cloud, right? Can you provide me questions for the Health Cloud? Obviously, I mentioned to them, no, I haven't reached that stage yet, and I don't have any plan to make questions for the Health Cloud. So, but I'm, doing a course. You might as well follow along. And they said, all right, we're looking to do certification. I said, all right, that's great. Then I asked, are you working on Health Cloud? Or you plan to one? And the answer was no. And then I was thinking, why you wanted to take a health cloud when you're not going to work on it, right? It's like, because I've seen this trend in Salesforce, and people assume, right, the more certification they have, the more they're good, to go with and the more, they can, I've seen with my own personal experience, right? People come with 20, 25 certification, right? And when you ask them to do a technical task, they struggle. And, and a customer being customer, when they're paying you like $400 an hour, they will tell you to F off, right? If you can't deliver. Because in Australia and New Zealand, this is how it works. Right? People are pretty blunt. They tell you in the face, right? In New Zealand, we are a bit more polite, right? We just don't like to say things in the face. But we still direct, right? At least I'm blunt. If I don't like it, I just say, hey, this needs to be improved, right? It can't go on. So one other thing I really find it concerning though, right? You should do a certification, right? By all means, go for it, right? I encourage people to get certified, provided if you're going to work on it, right? If you're not going to work on it, let's say for 2 years, what's the point, right? You're going to forget everything by the time, right? If you're not going to use it, your muscle memory will diminish by the time. There's a scientific study, right, done in the United States. I think it's done by Howard or Stanford. I can't remember. If you don't remember, if you don't use something for a certain period of time, right, your muscle memory will diminish, and it will kind of your brain works in such a funny way, right? You forget that information, and so yeah, so that's one of the reasons why if you're not, that's why I say, right, if you don't want to work on a health cloud project, right, just don't say that I wanted to do certification just to add my numbers. It makes no sense whatsoever. And this is what, and one of the, I work not only with Salesforce, right? I work with AI as well, right? I work a lot with PyTorch, and I work with Python. And these days, I'm trying to, try to involve in enhancing Swift language, which Apple had made open source because Swift has been used in TensorFlow. Swift is faster than Python in most of the things when it comes to language model and other stuff, right? But the Swift usage is not really commonly known. But unfortunately, right, we don't have this certification madness in artificial intelligence space because it doesn't work. It's a constant changing tech, right? And that's one of the reasons why I find it very strange, right? People are taking, oh, I wanted to get certification. I want to get certification. Yeah, go for it. But are you going to work on it? That's the question, right? Just don't take it for the sake of it. Nobody cares, right? And here in New Zealand, just because you have 24 cert or let's say 30 certs, no one going to pay you, high salary if you can't prove it, whether you can do the job. Even if you manage to sneak in, right? If your project performance don't reflect it, especially in consulting firm, right? It's a cutthroat competition. You don't deliver, they give you a few chances to improve, then you're out. In business, there's nothing personal, right? It's pure business. That's how it works in New Zealand. So even people get fired from government agencies, right? Usually in some countries, people think, oh, government jobs are safer. It doesn't work that way, in our side of the world. Yeah, I mean, there is kind of a safety net in kind of, you have unions. I mean, not really unions, right? It's not the United States. I mean, we have certain things, but you get certain kind of a remuneration when they let you go, right? But, if the government says we don't want to fund it, you don't have work, they will tell you, mate, it's time for you to leave. That's how it works. And I kind of like that too, right? Because it forced people to do things in a very efficient way. If there's a job, they will, it's an opportunity to learn something else, right? That's the way I look at it. And because I run a company too, right? If people don't perform, I give them a chance to learn. For me, my thumb rule is you give three chance, fourth chance they're out. There is no negotiation on fourth chance. Three chance is a good enough. Fourth one, you're out. End of story, right? That's applicable to me as well, right? And the stuff I do. If the customer don't like my work for three times, they can tell me to f off. It's that simple. There's nothing to be, feeling offensive or offended about it, right? It's the reality of a business. It's reality of 2023 work industry. Look at the United States, right? How many people got laid off, right? Business don't care. I mean, you think that people are at the asset. They are not the asset. The what is asset in a business is the amount of profit you generate. The sooner, the moment you stop, we consider that it's time for you to leave. Because you need to understand business does not work on charity. CEOs need to get paid. They need to pay salaries. They're answerable to the board. If person don't deliver, you're out because it's not your company, right? If that's what I tell to people, it's not your company. You didn't founded this company. You're just an employee who been traded to with the skill set for the money they give, right? That's the contract you signed it. Your contract clearly says, right? There's a mutual clause to, to split. So if that doesn't work, you go work for somewhere else. I mean, I just don't understand why people get so pressed about it, right? Either they don't read the employment contract or they don't understand it, right? If there is no work, there's no point in keeping. Like I tell you about my Inspirate solution, right? I like those guys from Poland, extraordinary talent, right? But I have to let go of the guy, right? Because we didn't make much sales, so unfortunately, I can't pay them the salary. So that's the nature of reality. Sooner people get it, sooner they will find an opportunity to move on. So yeah, I just thought, I'd just express it, right? Because it's been going on for a long time. I get people reaching out. So I thought I might as well squeeze something in this video and just explain to you, right? I don't mean anything personal, right? Because I don't take anything personal. When I work with people, for me, it's just a professional relationship. I don't get personal. After five, I just switch off my brain. I just don't, I don't remember most of the people name I worked like, 10 years ago. Because for me, it's professional space, right? I work, I move on, and then forget about it. Because they're not family, they're just a coworker you work with. You work and you forget. It's like, we have integration pattern, right? Fire and forget. So that's the way I use. Yeah, I'm nice to people. I like to maintain, high professional standard, a very good working relationship, but they're not friends. They're just a coworker. You happen to work together. Simple as that. Yeah, and I get it. In certain culture, it's different, right? But at least in this side of the world, this is how it works, right? So that being said, I think I ranted enough, right, for the Saturday. So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Saturday. Adios.